You leave an event, close the car door, and suddenly your brain turns the last 2 hours into a mental crime scene, scanning every word you said for mistakes. Psychologists distinguish this from healthy reflection. Cognitive review is a neutral, analytical process used to adjust communication for the future. Emotional rumination, however, is a self-critical loop that fuels anxiety without reaching a resolution. We are going to work through this cycle using a specific case. Grab a notebook or open a notes app. Recall one recent social interaction you have been overthinking and keep it in mind as we go. Over the next 5 minutes, we will map the specific cognitive traps that keep you stuck in that moment and build a personalized 4-step intercept plan to break the cycle. Progress begins with managing the internal narrative that takes over once the interaction is finished, providing a way to handle the aftermath before it solidifies into a source of future dread. When you leave a stressful social situation, the external event ends, but your brain's internal threat response remains active. Without a physical environment to navigate, that defensive energy turns entirely inward. In cognitive behavioral therapy, this is known as post-event processing, or PEP. Label the top of your page with PEP. This chart shows the mechanical loop. It begins with the social event. Feeling threatened forces your attention inward, triggering post-event processing. Here, your brain reviews perceived failures, searching a flawed record for disaster, creating a feedback loop that maintains the very symptoms you're escaping. This rehash rarely leads to closure. Instead, it confirms negative self-beliefs and strengthens the anxiety you feel leading into the next social encounter. If this loop is so painful, we have to look at why the mind initiates it in the first place. It is driven by positive metacognitive beliefs, the idea that rumination is a useful tool. Your brain is convinced that relentlessly replaying the interaction is a productive way to solve for safety and prevent future embarrassment. Look at your notes and identify the specific rationalization your brain uses to start a spiral. It might sound like, I need to figure out what they really thought, or I have to find exactly where I went wrong so I don't do it again. The brain has a hardwired need to close unfinished tasks. When it mistakes repetitive self-criticism for a task that needs finishing, it locks you into an endless mental loop. This is a survival mechanism functioning in the wrong context, an attempt to achieve security through a process that only generates more distress. The most dangerous part of this process is that rumination is based on a record that is no longer accurate. Memory is highly malleable, especially under the pressure of social anxiety. Because you don't know exactly how you were perceived, you are left with performance uncertainty. This lack of factual feedback creates a void in the narrative of the event. To resolve the tension of not knowing, the brain fills the void. It uses insecurities to bridge gaps between what happened and what you fear happened. With each recall, the anxious interpretation overwrites the facts until the factual record and imagined failure become indistinguishable. The conversation you are analyzing has shifted from a factual record into an emotionally distorted recollection, shaped by the very anxiety you are trying to solve. We can now translate this understanding into a protocol. Let's outline the first 2 steps of your customized social rumination intercept plan. Step 1 is recognize. Draft a rumination log on your page to identify your vulnerability windows. Track when spirals happen, where you are, and how your body feels, like a tightness in the chest or heat in the face. Step 2 is intervene. Choose specific, low-barrier actions, like starting an audiobook or calling a family member, to proactively interrupt the spiral. These interventions are not designed to fix the social situation. They are designed to forcefully break the mental loop by giving the brain a different cognitive task to focus on. The final steps of the plan address the brain's demand for certainty and closure. Step 3 is to refuse certainty. Write down the phrase, "It's done. I embrace uncertainty." This is a reminder to stop chasing the illusion that one more mental review will provide the clarity you are looking for. This leads to step 4, pivot. Next to your phrase, list one personal value, like family, work, or a hobby. When the brain tries to pull you back, consciously move your attention here instead. Lasting peace comes from accepting you'll never have absolute certainty about how a social event went, and choosing to spend your mental energy on things that align with your values anyway. You now have a complete intercept plan that maps your specific triggers to actionable interventions and pivot values. Be prepared for the habit to persist. You'll likely fall back into the cycle of overthinking tomorrow. This is an expected part of the process. Treat every instance of catching a rumination spiral as a mental rep at the gym. Each time you notice the loop and redirect your focus, you are building the cognitive strength required to break the habit over time. Keep this plan accessible and deploy it the moment you feel a social interaction beginning to turn into a mental crime scene. With these tools, you have a concrete method to move past the noise of the inner critic and reclaim your focus for the goals that actually matter.